my colleagues Canny Maphanga and Khumalo, as well as Sophie Mokoena, are out in the field there, and of course they've been covering this story from the morning. We're going to hand it over to Canny Maphanga. Canny, a very good afternoon to you. You're all there. So a very good afternoon to all of you. Canny, it's over to you.
Good afternoon to you, Nompu, and to the viewers at home. Of course, it was an early start for us this morning from the military hospital to here at the amphitheatre to the Isivivana Centre, where we saw a number of prayers taking place. Now that we've seen this historic occasion, which celebrates the life and legacy of these fallen soldiers who dedicated their life to the struggle and have finally been brought home, what we can expect next is for these mortal remains to be transported to their respective home places, where the families will then conduct that final burial, where they'll be given that final dignified funeral to their final resting place. Of course, there's a lot to discuss following the President's keynote address here at Freedom Park, a historic site, quite befitting to choose this place, which is preservation of our history, our culture, our rich legacy, to celebrate these heroes and keep their memory alive, as well as send them to their final resting places. I think we can start with international editor Sophie Mokoena to discuss the mortal remains being transported to the military hospital and then being brought here to Freedom Park this morning for that final send-off or respect from the ANC in a long-standing program which seeks to bring back our heroes to their final resting place.
Yes, you are correct, Kenny. It started with those exhumation in Zimbabwe and in Zambia. We did bring you those activities in those countries, and then they were brought to South Africa at the Waterkloof Air Force Base. We saw the landing of the cargo plane with the coffins, and then they were taken to one military hospital, the very, very historic military hospital where Madiba's body also was kept when he was doing those trips to Union buildings for South Africans to go and view the body, and they were brought here. It was a seamless process, and of course then I think the powerful message from the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, particularly the announcement that he has assigned the Minister of Arts and Culture to start a process to look at building Heroes Acre. I've been to the one in Zimbabwe quite a number of times. I've been to the one in Namibia when there was a burial there of a former liberation struggle, Toivo. And I think those places are very, very historic, and I think they also generate interest in terms of ensuring that generations to come, they know where we come from and where we are going. Yes, the issue of resources might be a challenge, but in a long run, it is also about tourism. For example, we've lost Madiba. We know how iconic Madiba is. Yes, he's resting in Kunu, and as the President said, you don't have to bring them there. You can have perhaps a stone or something that points to the structure that one person who's no more is Nelson Mandela. We know O.R. Tambo in the East Rand. And I think, Kaya, it's something that will also link the families and the people of South Africa, but also those who still has to be repatriated in other countries.
Well, certainly, guys, especially because there has been a reaffirmation from this administration that they will continue with this process, but also getting just a context of how it all started, all the way back from Nelson Mandela's presidency to President Mbeki's presidency, and really just seeing him also being around here and really just getting that moment to the SABC to reminisce about Duma Nokwe. This is somebody also, President Ramaphosa, where he said he really carried the flag of the ANC through those international platforms, whether you're looking at the OAU at the time, present day AU, and many other global structures. But something that is quite important for me was the issue of reinforcement of the diplomatic ties with the sister countries, saying, look, these freedom fighters, they might have been from different political affiliations, but there was one cause of freedom. But also by bringing them back to South Africa, it's all about also making sure that they regain their South Africanness. I think for me that was quite profound.
In addition to this, you've seen the various key holders or stakeholders in this very important project discussing how difficult of a task it may be to continue in other frontline countries. We know that Zambia and Zimbabwe, of course, those were organized graves, so it might have been an easier task to bring those just over 40 mortal remains to South Africa. However, we are dealing with many more that still need to be brought back home, some in sites and locations in Angola and Tanzania which cannot be touched, not safe to be touched, and it's not clear at this stage whether the success of this project with Zambia and Zimbabwe can be extended to those other frontline states as well, with hesitations regarding the logistics and the safety regarding bringing these mortal remains in other frontline states back to South Africa as well.
Yes, this reminds me of Russia. You know, J.B. Marx and Moses Kotane were buried in Moscow. And when there was that process, that is why it's true, this process started a long time ago. At that time when we were in Moscow, the minister was Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, before it became international relations. When we spoke to the Russians at the gravesite, because we went there, they were aggrieved that there's this attempt to exhume Moses Kotane and J.B. Marx, but it did finally happen. But also, you know that I think the important one for me was Sarah Baartman, because she was nobody, but the first person that was brought back, who was being paraded overseas, making a laughing stock of an African, was Sarah Baartman, and from the Khoisan. And I think that was profound, and that is why some of these leaders are saying, we have our relatives, for example, Mbeki, his son, his brother, but when the missing person team wanted to get them back, to go and exhume, and also trace former President Mbeki's son, he said no.
Very important to mention that this is also the important work of parts of the missing person task. Been working to find some of those activists, and we continue to monitor some of these developments as they continue to bring back those liberation heroes that fought for the constitutional democracy that we enjoy today. That brings our coverage of this historic occasion to a close today. Over to you in studio now.